Hi guys, welcome to Pixel Affair. It's Kobe here. So in today's video, we are going to see how we will do this effect, which was posted by Side Effects Houdini on Instagram, and I think it was originally done by not_Marius. So this is actually his page, not_Marius, and I think this was done using Houdini, right? So let's actually get into Cinema 4D and see how easy it is to use Cinema 4D to do this particular kind of shoe reveal effect. So I'm in Cinema 4D already, and I have my Vans shoe already in Cinema 4D, which I actually downloaded from Sketchfab. Free this Vans shoe on Sketchfab, right? So you can actually go here and you can download it if you want to follow along. So I have it already in Cinema 4D. I just want a pair of it, so I'll just copy this, edit, copy, and probably create a new scene, and I'll paste it here. Right, you can see it's quite small, and because we are going to use volume, I want to make it big, especially because it's just a shoe alone and it's not being used in relative to anything. So let's make it quite a big size, right? So let's select the scale tool and I'll scale it. Oh, actually I'll scale it quite big enough. Right, I think this should be fine. And now I think there's this spline, I'll delete it. And now I want the middle. This is not really important in this case, but I mean it's necessary sometimes when you bring in geometry. You make sure that this is in the middle. So I'll select the Vans shoe and I'll come to Tools, Axis Center, and I'll choose Axis Center. I'll just execute. Make sure the action axis, everything is set to default. Make sure X and Y, everything is set to, and just hit execute. You can see now it moves our axis into the center of our shoe, right? So now I can reset everything to 0. Right, and now we have our shoe in the middle. Like this is not really necessary, especially in the case where we are not going to necessarily do anything, like a lot of movement to the shoe, right? So now let's actually go ahead and see how we will start revealing our shoe, right? So we are going to use the volume tab to actually rebuild the shoe, right, with voxels. So I'll come into my volume and I'll choose volume builder. We can also do the same thing here from the volume builder here, and I'll make the shoe a child of the volume builder. I'll select the volume builder and I'll reduce the voxel size to something like 2. But if, for instance, you have a very small object, it means you have to make the voxel size also small. That's why I made the shoe quite big, so that I can keep it around this, the voxel side around this size, around 2 and 1. Okay, so now that we've created the volume builder, we can come in here and choose the volume measure. It can also be found here as well, and make the volume builder a child of the volume measure. So now it has actually given us a mesh which we can add textures and everything to, right? But you can see there are some holes in here, so I can select the volume measure and increase the voxel range threshold a little bit, and you can see it works on the holes. Maybe let's make it 55%, and now we are cool. Also, with the volume builder, what maybe you might not know is that you can actually use fields in the volume builder. So if I come into my fields, not effectors rather, but fields, and I choose linear field, right, I can make it a child of the volume builder. And now if I select the volume builder and come in here, you can see it has been added to our volumes in here. You can see the Vans shoe is here and the linear field is here, right? Now you are not seeing much because of the Vans shoe, right? But you can see in there is this cube which has been created there, and that's been because of the linear field. If I disable it, you can see it goes and it comes, right? So the reason why it's happening like that is if you come down here, you can see the creation space is set to box, right? So the linear field is being created within a box, some small box in here, but we want it to affect our whole shoe, right? So we will change the creation space from box to object below. So if I choose object below, now you can see something has happened. So this part of the shoe is a bit thicker than that other side, right? So what you can simply do is I'll select the volume builder, come here, you can see the linear field, and change the mode from union to intersect, and now I can see it's cutting our shoe into 2. So if I select my linear field, and let me rotate it some way, something like that. Right, I'll select the volume builder and make the voxel size like probably 3 for faster viewports and everything, but not necessarily the final thing. I'll probably even make it 4, let's see, right, to get the viewport to work faster. So now I can select my field and I'll rotate it a little bit like that. And now if I move it, you can see it basically draw our shoe on, right? So basically that's the basic concept behind the whole thing, revealing the shoe, right? So if I take it somewhere up here, right, and I set a keyframe at frame 0 and at frame, let's say 60, and move it down here and see and set a keyframe. Now if I hit play and see, it reveals our shoe. So it's that simple actually to do that. But one thing with this, if you can see, like, it's very linear. There's not like no randomness or anything in it. So ideally, when you are playing with linear field, you probably want to add a random field to actually give it a little bit of roughness at the edges, so that it doesn't look too clean or linear coming in. So typically you probably would want to add, like, let's say the random field, and now add it to the volume builder. And now if I select the volume builder, I can see the random field has been added to it. But in this case, I can't overlay. If I sort of, let me select the random field and change the creation space to object below, right, you can see everything has gone crazy. And if I do any of this, it doesn't work, right? So now it has sort of destroyed the shoe, like you don't get the shape and form properly. So how do you get the random field to affect the growth of your linear field without it destroying like the other part of the shoe where you want it to be fine? So to do that, I'll simply first of all take these two out of the volume measure, and we are going to use a different field, and that is a group field. So if I come into my fields, I'll choose a group field. I'll make that one rather a child of the volume builder, right? And I'll select the volume builder. Make sure you can see now it's the group field which has been added. And now the same thing, the creation space from box to object below, right? And now you will select it and put it to intersect. Now I can see everything has disappeared, and that's because if I select the group field, there's no field which has been applied. So you can simply now drag in the linear field that you created earlier, and I can see everything is back again to the way we did. All right, so now we are using the linear field through the group field, and in there we can go ahead and add our random field and even add more fields if we want, right? So now I add my random field and everything has gone crazy again, but I'll change it, the mode, from normal to overlay, and I can see it's affecting just where the edges, where it grew. So maybe we can even select the random field and now come into the size, the scale, probably increase it to like say 200, right? Or probably even 400. Can add animation to your random animation speed to your random field. And now if you hit play, you have something a bit different. You can see comes on a little bit. So now it simply, if you are cool with the animation, you can probably reduce it to back to 2. Let's see. All right, let's add this one. And now if we hit play, I mean, it will be slow in the viewports, but you can go ahead and cache it if you are cool with it, right? So that's basically the concept behind revealing the shoe using the volume builder and the volume measure. But in this case, I'm not actually going to use the linear field, right? I'm going to use a vertex map. So I'll delete the linear field. I don't want that. And I'll now disable the vertex, the volume builder and the volume measure, right? So now select my Van shoe. Actually, even delete the material for now. And I'll right click on it and I'll come to other tags and I'll choose vertex map, right? And in the vertex map, you can actually come down here and you can see you have use fields. So I'll choose use fields, and now I'll first of all I'll delete the freeze and I'll create a spherical field. So I'll create a spherical field, I want it to start from the top here, right? So I'll just come down here, and I'll use the spherical field. I'll move it somewhere up here. In fact, let me bring up the 4 views, and I'll move this one somewhere here, and I think we have it. So I want it to start from up here, right? And now I can go back into the vertex map. Now add the freeze. So I'll choose freeze on top of it, and I'll change the blend mode to max, right? And now down here you can see the mode is set to none. I'll change it to grow, and if I hit play, you can see it grows on our shoe, right? I'll reduce it if first strength to, like, say 30 or even 20, so that it doesn't grow that fast, and hit play, right? So it takes some time. Let's increase our frames to like 200, and if I hit play, you can see it grows. It takes time to grow. So this is what we are going to use to reveal our shoes. So now if I come into my group field, I can, delete the random field, or we can actually leave it in because we are going to use it. So I'll undo to bring the random field, and now in there we are going to, instead of the linear field initially, we are going to use the vertex map. So I'll drag and drop in the vertex map down here, and now if I bring back my volume builder, you can see it's working, right? If we hit play, let's actually increase the number of the voxel size so that it will be faster to 4 again. And now if you hit play, you can see it's growing on. In fact, let's make it 5. This is just to demonstrate it, right? You can see it's growing on our volume builder, right? So that's what we are going to use to control our shoe. All right, you can see it's basically growing on. So from there we'll go ahead and add the random the group field. We add the random, which has already been added, so we can actually adjust. I think the size in this case is quite big, so we can actually make it like, say, 100, and you can even come in here and change it to the noise that you think will be fine for you, right? You can play with the noise and see which one works better, right? Maybe, I don't know, look at any of them that you think works fine. So now basically we've done the shoe review part, right? And that's basically it. All you have to do is, after you're done, can add the mesh, reduce this one to the size of, like, say 2, or if you want to even get more details, you can set it to like 1, right? And that will be a lot of details, but 2 is fine in this case, right? And the next is the particles, that comes, like, this those fire particles, I don't know how to call it, or the sparks or something like that, that reveals after the shoe. And with that, in that one, I actually will use X particles. Unfortunately, in my 4D particle system, you can't generate from objects, so it's quite difficult. Maybe there probably could be a trick about using like something like the matrix or something, but that one too is a bit tricky. You have to play with a lot of stuff, right? But in the particle, I actually use X particles, right? So to generate the particles, I'll first of all disable the volume and everything, right? And you are going to use the same vertex map that we use, this vertex map, to also generate the particles, right? So I'll select this vertex map, and I'll actually probably name it to, say, vertex map 1. And you are going to create another copy of the vertex map. So I'll right click on the object again, come to my object tab, other tags, and I'll choose vertex map, right? I'll name this one 2, right? And I'll choose use fields. I'll come into the fields tab, and I'll delete the freeze. Now we are going to use the first vertex map we created to control the second one. So I'll just click and drag this one and drop it in here. And now you can see we have the same thing as the first one. If I hit play, you can see it grows and everything. But we want just the tip. And if you followed my tutorials, I mean, there's a trick I use a lot in most situations, right? So we want it to affect just the tip. So with that, you are going to use curves. So I'll select, come in here down to my modify layers, and I'll choose curves, right, on top of our object. And now I can come in the curves hold Control to click in the middle to create another point, right? And now I'll bring this tip down, and I'll increase this, like bring this one up. So by so doing, it's like, yeah, forcing all the things like the yellow side behind to also go back to 0. So it goes up to 1 and back to 0, right? So basically that's what we are doing. All right, so now if we hit play, you can see we've created this, and this is what you are going to use to generate the particles. And if you come in here, you can see we have this one to revealing the shoe, whilst this one generates the particles. And that's basically it. So now I can simply come in here to my Insidium X particles. Let me simply create an emitter, and I'll select the emitter and I'll drag it down. And down here in the emitter object tab, I'll change the mode emitter shape to objects. And the object we want to create is the Vans shoe. Used to create the particle is the Vans shoe. So I'll just drag and drop in the objects, and if I hit play, you can see it's generating all these particles from polygon center of every polygon, right? So now we will tell let me select the emitter. We will tell it that, yeah, but we want you to generate with from this selection. So the selection we want to use is the second vertex map we use. So I'll drag and drop that one here, and if I hit play again, you can see now it generates from only where the vertex map shows up, right? So I can simply come into the machine tab, and I don't want any speed for now. I'll set it to 0, and if you hit play, you can see it generates there and it stays, right? But I don't want it to stay forever. I want it to leave. So I'll bring the full lifespan. I'll uncheck it. It's set to 90 frames, and I'll set it to probably 15 frames and give it a little bit of variation, like 10 frames. All right, this is the variation, like 10 frames here. And now if I hit play, see, comes and it goes. Maybe let's probably do it 20 frames. It feels like it goes quicker. So now all we have to do is now add some gravity to it. So when it generates a force, so I'll come into my Insidium X particles, my modifiers, motion modifiers, motion modifier. So I can choose gravity, and now if we hit play, let's see, if we generate our particles, they begin to fall. But right, it's not interacting with the shoe, right? So it's simple. I'll right click on the Vans shoe, come to simulate, and I'll add my actually not simulate, come to Insidium, and I'll add XP collider to our Vans shoe. And now if we hit play, you can see we'll be colliding with our shoe and be falling, right? So wherever, if I select the vertex map, wherever the vertex map is, you can see it generates the sparks or the particles, and you keep falling. And then you can actually now go into your emitter and increase the number of particles that you want and play around with, like the things you basically want to play around. Probably add a little bit of turbulence and stuff to it, maybe 2000 or even 10,000. It's quite fast, right? And now you can see your particles are generating, and from here you can actually use Redshift or any render engine that you want to render this particular effect. So after you are done with this, you basically, let me actually first, so typically in a full scene, what I'll actually do is I'll first render this into a, how do you call it, a VDB. Actually I'll render it into Alembic. I'll bake it as Alembic, right? So I'll come in here and I'll see down here, see bake as Alembic, so that it will play faster in my scene. Then after that, I'll actually go ahead and add on with the X particles and everything, so that it doesn't slow my scene and I can have a proper playback, right? So I hope this was useful and you've learned something at least from this video, and one or two tricks in there. Now, one thing I actually didn't talk about is that in the, let me actually create a new scene, and I'll create something like let me create like a normal cylinder, right? With a cylinder, I'll make it a child. Let me create the volume builder again. I'll make it a child of the volume builder, right? And I'll change the voxel size to, let's say, 2, right? And I'll bring the volume measure. In fact, the volume measure might not be necessary, but let me bring it. So if I make it a child of volume measure, right, and let's go ahead and create the linear field again, make it a child of the volume builder, select the volume builder and select the linear field, change it to object below, and you can see we are back to where we were. Let me actually select the linear field and change it to Y. All right, and now you can see we have what we did initially. Now let's select the volume builder and change this one from union to intersect, and you can see it's cutting our volume, our cylinder. All right, so if I move it up, you can see it's growing. But what if you don't want it to be hollow? You want it to be like the full cylinder, which is being cut off. It's as simple as selecting the volume builder, and instead of the volume type being signed distance field, you can simply change it to fog, and now you can see now it's treating the cylinders like a full object, right, which is being cut. So now if I come in here, let me actually bring in the group field rather. So if I bring the group field, make it a child, select, let me drag out the linear field and select the volume builder group field, creation space to object below, and let's choose. In this case, we will leave it as normal, right? When we change the volume to fog, we can leave the mode as normal. So now in the group field, I can simply drag and drop in the linear, and now you can see we are doing the same thing. So you can go ahead and add like a random field in here, and I'll choose overlay, and now you can see if I select the random field and make it like say 200 or even 300, add animation and everything to it, right, and hit play, can see what's happening, right? And now you can take the linear field, move it, and now it will grow on our cylinder, but it treats it as a full field like cylinder, not like some hollow cylinder. So this is something I forgot to mention. You can actually do this as well. I hope this was useful, and thank you for watching. If there's anything you don't understand, you can actually send me a DM on Instagram at Pixel Affair, or you can comment under the comment section, and I will do well to try and answer. Thank you for watching, and please kindly subscribe. See you in the next one.